What's going on, people? It's Mr. Dore back again with another podcast. It's been a crazy 24 hours. Lots to talk about, people. So if you want to get involved, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and get involved with the comments, man. People, I knew about it at 3 o'clock in the morning. The guy at the end put it on my group chat, and I thought something happened, but then it all happened that Nuno had been sacked. And crazy, and then we got the man himself. It is what it is. The Aussie guy. It is what it is. So people, let's talk about. We've got the panel in as well. First of all, let's get the man in. Rads, how you doing, Rads?
Good. Yeah. Very turbulent day, but it's nothing too strange for Forest, is it? It's just the norm for us. But yeah, I'm sure we'll dissect it in this stream.
We're doing the next man. I'm going to call out Des. People, I've got the receipts as well. I wish I got it all, but I have not had time as well. So people, I want to get at Des today. But how are you, Des?
I'm good. Forest got a new manager. What's new?
Oh, days! It's been a mental. But yeah, people, get involved, man. And like I said, it's been a crazy 12 hours, we can say, of what's happening in the club. England, I think England's still winning 4-0. I think. And Anderson again.
5-0.
Is it 5-0? Is Anderson scored yet?
No, Rashford penalty.
And Milenkovic has been sent off, but that's good for us. So he's rested, so he doesn't pick any injuries up. Right, I'm gonna get Rads and Des's opinion on the whole thing. So people in the chat, please get involved with that. We're all going to talk about. But first of all, I'm going to get into the chat as well. Kerry said who was late. This guy, as always. Justin says, "What's the odds? Finally save the money for the family and see Forest in December." And Aussie Ange is in charge. We will look at Aussie Ange fans. Son will say look like a proper bell ends as well. Davey, hi Ben, hi Super Des, hi. What? How comes these two get special treatment, Dave, and I don't? What's going off? What is going off here? Where's my treatment? Kevin says 5-0. Eve, good evening, Mr. Storm Des. I hope you're well. Got that Nuno's been sacked. I found out 11:30 last night. I didn't find out till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't sleep. So I've been at work all day, and yeah, it's been a long day. Right, people, hit the subscribe button. Who should start first, Des or Rads? Who get involved first? Rads? No, let's get Rads first. Because Des will talk about like an hour because I'm going at Des after this. Go on, Rads. What's your opinion on everything?
Well, with Nuno, it's sad, really, isn't it? It's not the way it should have ended, really. Everything that's happened with him, what he's done for the club. Joined us when we were in a relegation battle, and he took us to Europe. That's incredible. So can't thank him enough for what he's done for Forest. But I think it's been coming, really, hasn't it, the last few weeks. Since those interviews that he did that were just not really what you see in general, really, from anyone, but definitely from someone like Nuno, who's normally very, laid back. It just didn't feel right, and I think it was kind of inevitable. And maybe that West Ham game was what kind of did it in for him. Maybe if we hadn't lost like that, it might not have happened. But maybe that's why we lost, to be honest, because of this whole thing. But yeah, I'm sad how it ended. With Nuno, but we've got to look forward now. Obviously, we've got somebody who's definitely going to put opinion in Big Ange. I partly like it, but I am a bit skeptical. But I think a lot of I think everyone's mentioned why it might be a bad thing. But I'll back him for sure. He's Forest manager. I'm going to back him. I want him to do well. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to make this season even more chaotic than it was already going to be. But yeah, it is what it is. It's just who we are, mate.
Here's where we are. I've been saying that all the way. Here's where we are, mate. Here's where we are. I'm too sorry for the Aussie accent, but sorry, Davey. And sorry, Justin, as well for that. Before we get Des in, I want to shout out to Paddy Irish as well. Evening Door, Des and Rads. I miss Nuno, but I'll get behind Ange. I hope we have a plan B and no Kamarazi football for 90 minutes as well. Kevin says, "Hi Ben, still getting over Man United decision. Looks bloody failure we've got now." Like I said, there's something that we're going to talk to. But Des, I'm going to get Des before he does. Like he's been and not been a fan of Ange. No, I'm being asked you, Des, for a change. How you feeling, Des? Like,
I'm not quite sure. Honestly, I don't really know. The thing with Nuno, look, for as much as he caused it in the end, and I think even till the bitter end, I can see signs of Marinakis actually trying. He gave him the players he wanted, right down to the transfer deadline day. I think something has probably happened again. You know, there's probably been a double hit behind the scenes, because it seemed like after that interview at the Europa League tour, and then the fact he still went for the players. There were still rumours about him going for Traore. We got the fullbacks, we got the goalkeepers. So Nuno was obviously angling for it. And whilst that might seem like I'm blaming Nuno entirely, of course, look, Marinakis is not an easy guy to work for. Everyone knows that. And there's perhaps a lot that's gone on to get Nuno to this point. So we don't really know the ins and outs of it. But what we do know is once he'd said something, it was kind of inevitable. You know, weeks ago, when we was almost telling ourselves that he'd get through it and perhaps it'll be okay. If we hindsight's a wonderful thing, as somebody said. I've seen all over Sky Sports today. In hindsight, we knew that he was going. He was a dead man walking, weren't he? Then there was the West Ham game. And that just sort of compounded everything, you know. And a lot of us, myself included, not for the first time, because I was not that overexcited about Nuno coming in the first place, I'll be honest, you know. But recently, I chose to criticise what happened in that game and put it on the manager and a bit of stubbornness. And it just felt like the relationship had gone that far that things had completely broken down, you know. So the news wasn't that much of a shock. I was actually in Sunderland yesterday, bizarrely, after the Great North Run, and a lot of the guys were talking about our manager situation, which I don't know why it hit Sunderland before it hers. When I came home, as you saw, Dore, I sent a picture. The lights was on. Still didn't put two and two together. You know, and then for the news to drop at near on midnight.
This is the problem, Des. This is why we say in private group, we say to Des, get to the bloody ground, lights are on, and this is what happens. So it's your fault, Des. You could have brought the news, Des, couldn't you? Absolutely shocking behaviour.
Well, perhaps I could have, but I didn't, because I've got a life.
Not good enough. Not good enough, Des.
But no, it was just bizarre yesterday. And then, of course, you wake up today and even before we got a chance to really speculate who it was going to be, it was almost a done deal, wasn't it? And that's why the lights was on, I guess, because it was even done. We know by the way they've done it in the past, whether it's O'Neill and Lamuche or Cooper and Nuno, you know, even, they do it quick. They get it all lined up and they get the announcements out. You know, O'Neill still talks about the 21 minutes between being sacked and Lamuche coming in. So it's what they do. I expected it to be quick. I expected it to be today. I was panicking about it be one or two people. And as you've alluded to a few times, Dore, you know, I'm not his biggest fan. That doesn't mean I won't get behind it. That doesn't mean I can't be constructive and come up with some positives, which hopefully we'll get into throughout the show. But I called it about 18 months ago, if you remember right, saying this guy's a fraud. And all that happened from when I said it was they just started losing football matches constantly. And the guy refused to change. You know, and what's been labelled at the last two Forest managers, the ones that have actually had a period of success, you know, before the inevitable sacking comes later on. And rightly so in Cooper's case, a guest towards the end. As a massive fan, but they had that success, and they was then labelled with they've got no plan B. Like at the end of last season with Nuno, there's no plan B. They don't know what to do. Well, if we're looking for a manager without a plan B, we've finally landed on the top one, haven't we? Because last season, for me, what I really struggle with, and I will say some positives. I'm not all anti Ange right at this point, but for him and Amorim, who are dubbed these super coaches and this kind of thing, there's far better managers. And yes, there was lots of fans getting excited by Iriola and Marino and people like that. But the reality is they are far better football managers. We're perhaps unlikely to come to Forest in this kind of situation, but they've proven over time, over decades, well, not necessarily over decades, over years, and with different clubs, that they can do a job and that they can construct football teams. All I saw from that Tottenham team last year was the way kind of it all broke down, and the tactics probably aided the injuries ultimately in the end. And we're all worried now if we're going to get tactically into it, which I'm sure we will. We're worried about the contrasting styles, and that's just the fear that comes with it. Like I say, I'd like to bring some positives into it, but it's just a concern. I do see. I like the thought of the football potentially. We've got different players. We've got better players all of a sudden. Hopefully that gives them a chance. Hopefully players don't get injured. Yes, Spurs were absolutely hindered, but that's where you earn your crust as a manager. That's where. So when Amorim and Ange are saying I'm not changing, well, that's nonsense, because then you don't know how to sort of adjust your teams to play football matches. And look, we had the master at concentrating on ourselves in Brian Clough, and what we did. But again, there was still horses for courses and people for different situations. And it was just this thing we saw last year where you got centre-halves on the halfway line. And that's all right when you got Mickey van der Ven, who's the fastest player in the Premier League. But we've got two of the best, but they're enforcers, they're blockers, they're stoppers, and the fear is now that initially, especially, we might get sort of games like Arsenal, especially. But on the other hand, in games like that, because they're going to come at us, we're going to go at them, the whole thing might just click and it might work. I posted in a WhatsApp group today, in our WhatsApp group, that the thing about football today, we can all be down or up on Ange or Marino or anybody else or Iriola. We're as likely to go through the stratosphere in terms of success as we are to actually plummet back to where we came from, and that's what a lot of people are fearing. It's just bonkers because you never actually know. I also use the word that managers are commodities, just a bit like players are to some degree. They move on, they do different things, they move around different football clubs, and sometimes it's a success. Look at Nuno, went to Spurs, did nothing, come to us, probably half the resources, not quite as good players, and gets the tune out of them. And that's what really, we just really don't know what's going to come next. And that's the way Marinakis' Forest is. It's just as simple as that, isn't it? That's what the club we've become. And it's box office for Premier League and the modern type of football fan. But for us who are quite pragmatic and love to get into the tactics and the nuts and crannies of the game itself, it's one we're going to have to wait and see, isn't it?
100%. While there's loads of comments are flying in left, right, and centre, man. We're just going to go for where we're going first. This is from Ian. Just subbed. I'm like from Australia. Fans and OG fans here, you get extra subs. People, if you can, hit my subscribe button and right to subscribe to it. It's in the title as well, people. The Australian fans, Raz does Forest content as well. All you do is subscribe to him. And like I said, before the Forest. I'm gonna do vlogs and that. So make sure all the new Aussie fans subscribe as well. I'm nearly on 14.5. So if you can, people.
Sorry, can I just say, Dore? I saw a guy on the bus today, and he asked me to mention him to you. His name is Greg. You know, he was a nice chap, and he recognised me from this, and he says, "Sure, Des," and he says, "Do you think Mr. Dore give him a shout out?" So I was coming home from work. Greg.
Oh, shout out to Greg. Oh, Greg, did Des just talk? Just ignore him and put your head down and listen to your headphones. That's the best thing you can do, people. Like, yeah, if you do listen to Des, don't listen to it, but I don't. So, shout out to Greg, man, and all that. But yeah, shout out to Ian, all the Aussie Australian fans. Well, make sure everyone follows Des as well on his social media as well, because Des does, like I said, before and after games, and I can't wait for the European tours because there's still no signs of the better tickets. Well, yeah, they're coming soon. Another member to the channel, up the pitch and down the league we go. Fingers crossed if Ange Ball 2.0 and not the version we saw at Spurs last season. Again, we are going to talk about that as well. So shout out as well. Eagle Eye Football, I come in peace. And listen to me, this is why we're here. You know what? If we didn't get Ange, I would have loved Glasner just for Vance. So yeah, that would have been great. Shout out to Kate. How you doing, Kate? And I hope Jackson's well. It's a shame, but not surprised. Nuno, I'm not Ange's biggest fan, but I'll get behind it. Obviously, I haven't felt the same about Nuno when he came in after Cooper, and looks like we did. Let's see. Definitely, and that's why I want to pick up to talk about Rads, because we all said the same Rads about when Cooper left, and we was like this, oh, Nuno this, and oh, we're like this. And like I said, Nuno's done absolutely fabulous. Are you the same with Ange? Because he's won trophies, and that's what Miss Marrakis wants. But how are you feeling on that one?
Yeah, I think it's very similar, really. I think the reaction, I think there's probably a bit more negativity towards Ange, but yeah, there was a lot of people that weren't fussed on Nuno when he came in, which is a little bit strange, really, because of how well he did with Wolves before, and they were only basing it off a few months at Spurs, and then he'd been in Saudi. But yeah, as a manager, people were criticising him as well, and obviously, I think it shows that maybe that isn't always the best thing to do, because look what he did. He got us into Europe, and even though certainly wasn't perfect, I don't think any manager is. He had his flaws. It wasn't all that often we saw them, really, but overall he brought amazing success and memories to us. So based off that, I don't think we can. I think whoever comes in, to be honest, you can't just immediately write them off. You've got to back them, no matter what their history is. You've got to give them a chance at least, and it doesn't mean because they struggled somewhere else that they're going to struggle here, and prove that. So I don't think we should necessarily write Ange off straight away. I think we saw last season, Spurs lost the most games ever without getting relegated. I believe lost 22 games, which is. I mean, that's horrific with the side that they had. Even if they had injuries, there's no excuse really for them to come as low as they did. I mean, if the bottom three weren't as bad as they were, they would have genuinely been in a relegation battle. So it's a bit mad when you look at it. We've replaced the guy who got 7th and replaced him with the manager that came 17th last season. I mean, normally that would be just a crazy decision. But I think the fact ultimately was with Spurs, and then he won a Europa League. Not quite. It's not like we've just signed somebody from a relegation candidate that's always going to be down that end of the table. But end of the day, he was down that end of the table, so people are going to be sceptical. They're going to criticise, and I saw a gas from when it happened a few years ago in his first season. There's a screenshot of a game against Chelsea when they had 9 men and every member of the Spurs team was on the halfway line. The Chelsea players were all on the same line as well, and it was just a ball over the top, and they ended up winning 4-1. And I think from that moment, everyone thought, is this guy really going to keep playing like this? And then he did. and it ended up backfiring in the end. But I think people forget he had a good start at Spurs. They had a really good start, but it ended up tailing
Where
off.
did they finish? The first season, was it 5th?
5th, yeah. But they were top the first couple of months. They were top at time. But then they got found out. So, it's easy when he's not been in the Premier League. My worry is maybe everyone knows how Ange plays. If he does the same with Forest, which he surely will do, it might become quite predictable. And we've complained that Nuno hasn't got a plan B. Well, I don't think Ange is going to have a plan B based off what he did at Spurs. But I don't want to lay into him. I want to give him a chance. He has got a lot of experience ultimately. So I'm not completely against it, but I think I'm the same as most people. You've got every reason to be, a bit wary as well. Skeptical.
And before we get down, the comments are flying in left, right, and centre. This is from Richard. The same happened with Nuno at Wolves. He got rid of him. He was poached by Spurs. At the Saudi club, he refused to play Benzema and got rid of him. Yeah, I remember that. Them two fell out. It was in public domain as well. Where was it? From Marshy. The Tower will win the trophy for Ange's second season. We wouldn't be shocked that Forest do a Forest, and that doesn't happen. Wait, any more? Des, do you think, people in chat as well? I've done a poll. I'm going to say, are you happy with Ange? Yes, no, 50-50. 33 says yes. 29 says no. 50-50 is 40. It's 40% as well. Please do hit the like button as well if you can, people. Des, what do you think? Is it 18 months he signed a contract, Ante? What do you think? What do you think Maracas said to Ange? He said that in a statement. He's got a record of winning cups. Do you think he's got he's got the pressure to win a cup this season or second season, as he always says?
Possibly, but I was trying to sort of balance this up in my own mind today. Trying to be pragmatic, trying to find the positives. Let's go back to this 17th in a Europa League victory, right? Which would you really take? And the reality of it all is most of us in a heartbeat would say, we'll take a Europa trophy and we'll finish 17th. But the reality actually is, would we? Because you're getting beat every week. We go to football to watch our team win. We go... And I've been trying to balance this up for a long time, even before Ange come in, thinking, how does it actually work? But we actually want to see a winning team, a progressive winning team. Whereas, look, some of the games they played in the Europa League last year were pathetic. I watched a lot of them, and even, look, you could only beat who's in front of you. The semi-final, they got the good draw, and they got the Norwegian team, and then they got through to the next worst team in the Premier League to them. So I was really trying to weigh it up and wonder. And 18 months isn't a long time. It's a cautious approach to employing him. And a lot of fans are saying he'll be gone by Christmas and this will be happening and that will be happening. And look, you can't help but feel some of that because, again, he's got to go and hit the ground running, I feel, and a contract that short means he definitely has. Look, if he gets a result at Arsenal, this is how fickle we all are as football fans. We'll be on the Ange bandwagon, and if he beats Arsenal and then we go and win a very winnable games against Swansea and Burnley, and he's won 3 on the spin, and we're all going to Europe. There'll be songs about him and Nuno will be forgotten. But that's the problem, isn't it? It's not that simple. We had a team that was set to play a way that Nuno wanted and which suited the team. And this is the problem sometimes with people coming into the British game and not quite sort of seeing it. Consistency always wins out. The teams who stick with the manager, Brentford, teams like that who had Frank for a long time. Look what happens when he's gone. Just things start falling to pieces. Things that don't go right. So what concerns me, due to the shortness of the contract, it doesn't seem like a long-term thing. And what concerns me is the relationships the players had with Nuno and how the team was built to play Nuno style. And now all of a sudden, it appears that that's going to have to change and change quickly. Look, the players won't be bothered about that so much. They'll relish it. Morgan Gibbs-White been crying out for years for him to play 10 yards further up the pitch. So I can kind of, if it does work, if for some reason it does click, I can see it paying off to some degree. Get Douglas Luiz on the pitch, get Anderson playing further up like he does, not further up, but getting a bit more advanced from those deep positions like he does for England. You're seeing what he can do at the moment. So there's a lot of talent he's got to work with. But for me, it comes down to relationships and how people now respond to Ange. Bearing in mind what's happened, how it's all come about, the shortness of his contract. You got people who are quite close to him, Gibbs-White, Bolly. I know Bolly's not necessarily in the first team, but then you're looking at the tactical side of it. Chris Wood, from when Nuno came in, Chris Wood came alive. And this is what happens. Sometimes it's not just a fluke of, it worked for that manager and it didn't work for that manager. It's actually, these are why the managers are at the top of their game, because they can find something or do something. We was all in Team Taiwo before Nuno come in, and from that very first game, it just seemed to happen for Wood. Will that, in a quick build-up team, will Wood even fit in? That's what worries me, those kind of things. Because he's not the most mobile. Yes, you'd like to think he'll still stick him away, and I'm not saying he's going to deteriorate quickly, but these things happen. Somebody's going to get the nose pushed out of joint as well, and it's how that affects the rest of the dressing room. And it seemed like that had happened anyway, so that I'm not putting all that on Ange. But they've got such a big squad. Somebody's going to be left out for this, or somebody's going to be left out for that. We can pick our starting 11 at the start of the season, and it actually for the first time in a long time felt quite nice. Of course, when the players come in, then things start changing a bit. But it felt nice to have that stability going into a season. And that's the worry at the moment. It's just that lack of stability. The fact we've got European football, as brilliant and as exciting as it is, it brings its own instability in itself. The number of fixtures, the likely injuries, the style of football potentially we're going to play. You're not going to have Milenkovic and Murillo stood on the halfway line because they're just not those type of players. And if you're trying to get them turning and going back towards their own goal, we're going to have hamstrings popping all over the place. Look at Aina. He's got dodgy hamstrings at the best of times.
He got injured as well.
If he's injured now, but if he's bombing up and down the wing, he goes off most games anyway. And you're going to have situations where you might not have players fit because of the system. And then again, look, don't get me wrong. I'd rather see Forest win 4-3 than 1-0 every week. That's what football's about. It's about scoring goals and winning football matches. But again, you have to just sort of temper everything with a sense of realism and just understand that a lot goes into the makeup of a football team. And it just felt like we'd worked on this for 18 months. Cooper started the good work. Nuno took it to another level. I don't think we're going to be any worse, but I don't know if we're going to progress, because there's a lot of teams worse than Forest in that league. We will turn over some teams now. We'll be getting some of those 4-0s against Burnley and things like that. Not necessarily in a couple of weeks. Don't hold me to it. But we'll be getting some of that. We might go and beat City, 2-0 at their place, and seem to have a knack of that. But then we'll get some of those defeats on the other side of it, and it's just how we react to that. And one thing that no one's even mentioned is Marinakis is a fiery guy. Obviously, his nature and where he comes from and his temperament. He's employed a guy who's pretty much the same, from Greek heritage, quite fiery, quite stubborn, quite arrogant. I don't mind those suits in people, if that's the way they are. But how are they going to react to each other when the team isn't doing so well? It's going to be like a volcano in the dressing room, isn't it? And again, it's how then it filters into the corridors and the chambers of the club, in the sense that how do the players react to that? Because it's just going to be a very hostile and fiery atmosphere. And don't get me wrong, I've said it for years. I want Forest to be winners. We've been the perennial losers for too long. The nice club, everybody's second club. I love the fact that we're ruffling feathers. Marinakis is telling people to piss off and all these things. It's brilliant. But what we need is our own club in this unity together. And it felt like at the back end of last season, and even the start of this season, it felt like we had this big thing going on where everybody was on the same page. And it seems since the deterioration at the back end of last season, the Leicester game will always come into it, because we know what happened in reality that day. That was the beginning and the end, wasn't it? And as much as we don't want to admit it, Neville was right, because he probably is on most things. He's just a bit outspoken and gobshite about it all. It's one of those where people are looking in and just thinking, I mentioned yesterday, it was the talk of Sunderland, bizarrely, as Mike was roaming around the town. And all people kept saying, and again, look, I don't mind this and I'll explain it, but all people kept saying was, you're Nottingham Forest, you're one of the best respected clubs in the country, and everyone was saying how much Marinakis is this, Marinakis is that. And I kept going back at them saying, the guy is just a winner, out and out winner. And we've got to this point in football where we have to accept these winners out and out, and I take it from Marinakis because he backs up what he does. When I see some of those interviews with Ange, I'm not quite sure he's the winner he thinks he is. It's okay winning at certain things and winning in certain places, but when it comes to it, now he's not got a Tottenham squad to deal with. He's got a developing squad to work with. That doesn't mean instant success in the Premier League. Whereas Tottenham top 5, Tottenham, Newcastle's Villas, you'd expect him to be in cup finals. You'd expect him to be winning things, because they can turn it on. But I just hope that they can work together and get the relationships right. That's what all this comes back to, and understand that there is. If Marinakis understands there'll be ups and downs with Ange, brilliant. But will he? That's the thing in all this, and the players have got to subscribe to that kind of environment and that kind of hostility at times as well.
I'm just going for comments. This from Steve. How you doing? Well, Steve. What another question before I was being a Forest fan. Something told me we're going to see more than a 5-5 game from Villa years ago, more than our future. The way he plays. Kate, don't give Des a please. No. Take that back, Kate, man. Take that back. Kate says, Des, it's not a pitch. Mr. Aaron and Marcus are both massive personalities as well. Kate, stop giving. Why is everyone giving praise to fucking Des, man? He talks nonsense sometimes, but bloody hell. In Japan, Australia, different teams they win every year, especially with Ange was there, and we just keep winning, especially as well. People, please do hit like and subscribe. I'm going to ask Des and Rads. Was Ange the first choice manager? And people, if tell me who was your first choice manager, because he wasn't mine. He wasn't mine at all. But like I said, I'm going to back him 100%, like we did with Nuno and like what Nuno did. So people in the chat, who was your first choice Forest manager? Rads, who was your first choice, Rads?
Well, we mentioned it earlier how it all happened so quickly. We're all saying, I want this guy. And then before we knew it, it was like, no, Ange is the manager. And then we didn't even really get the chance to debate who it should be. But I did see a lot say Marcus Silva would be a good pick. And of all the names linked, he's probably the one I like the most. Good as the Bournemouth manager, Areola or Glasner. whether they're realistic or not. Those three were linked. I saw Sky mention those three. I would have been very happy with any of those, to be honest. Yeah, I don't really have a preference. One of those three, but I don't know how to say his name. That's ex-Belgian manager Tedesco. How do you say his name?
He was linked. I thought he was rubbish for Belgium. For Belgium.
I wouldn't have been too sure about that. I don't know as much about him, of course, but his record wasn't great.
He was a Belgian manager. I didn't rate. When I see that, I thought, nah, I can't have him because he wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He reminded me of what's that? I forgot the manager now, but I didn't rate him.
Yeah, so someone like him or Ange, obviously Mourinho was spoken about, which that would have been pure chaos, mad. But
imagine Mourinho and Marinakis, that would be, like they said, that'd be box office. I'd be doing content every day.
Yeah. So Ange's I'll prefer that to others maybe, but he definitely wasn't my first choice. Like I don't think he was to most of us. To be fair, but yeah, as we say, he's our manager now, so let's get behind him. Let's hopefully see him do all right.
Who was yours, Daz? Who was your first choice, Daz?
I don't know. I didn't have the time to think about it, and the fact of the matter is, Dore, is like I said to you, I'm honest enough to say I wasn't that keen on Nuno.
Yeah, me too.
But he did well, and let that be a lesson to us all. It doesn't matter what Ange has done anyway, or however negatively we think about him, because what we've seen in the Premier League, he probably did better at Spurs than Nuno did at Spurs in reality. So it sometimes it just happens, and sometimes it clicks in. The bigger issues I've got is the tactical side of it. We saw at Liverpool especially. Where Nuno created this masterclass, and certain games at home which were tight and we had to win, or we blocked teams out. Being brave enough to put 5 on at the back after 70 minutes, and all these kind of things, because we were confident we could go through. So that's where it worries me. But that kind of brings me back to people, all those managers Rad's mentioned, Iriola, Silva, Glasner, they've got experience, I think the hype around Glasner is a bit too high at times. Palace finished last season well, and they've started this season on a bit of a high after what happened. Don't get me wrong, I think he's doing a brilliant job, but you used to have to prove yourself as a manager. I think this season, Iriola at Bournemouth, if he gets them into the top 10, that guy's really worth something, because they have lost players, big players. They've lost 75% of the back 4 or 5 or whichever way you look at it. They've lost 3 or 4 players out of that. Really good players have lost. And if he can get them back up there again, which I think he will, there's no reason to say they've already got 2 wins and scored 2 at Anfield. He'd be one really worth looking at. But and I'm not sure I want him. Do you know who the one is at the forefront of my mind is Mourinho, because of the styles, because of the situation he'd walk into. We were known as that team to park the bus. And again, it's easy to say, let's go and bang goal. Chris Wood will score even more. But that's not how football works, is it? If you look into the intricacies of it, who's going to get bypassed a little bit in that sort of play? My fear, as I've already mentioned, is Ward. What you'd have with someone like Mourinho, and again, I'm not necessarily advocating him, but you'd have your back 4 in order. Myself been banging on about my number 6, and then the rest of your players go and do your flair stuff. They work back and work hard as well. But you kind of got that ready-made system built for a Mourinho team, which when Mourinho's gone into big teams, other than Chelsea in the initial instance, he struggled a bit because he's had to sort of try and turn free-flowing quality teams into his style, which has not necessarily worked out of late. Do you know what I mean? Like Tottenham and Man United are forward-thinking teams. Chelsea, he went in there and built it upwards. and they were building from a sound defence, whereas those teams were more about attack, and then it didn't really work out ultimately. If it'd come into a Forest like that, when he went to Inter Milan, it worked, didn't it? Because it's the Italian way, sit back, dig deep, park the bus, and all that. And that's where I felt he might have been a good fit. And of course, with the resignation he put in last week, it was starting to look possible, but that didn't happen. So just in that place now with it, where probably just got wise to the fact that we know, as I said before, we never actually know what's going to happen. We could be third in the Premier League in 6 weeks, and loving life again. Or we could be third bottom thinking, what the hell have we done? And looking at another manager.
That's the word.
Really, there's nothing any of us can do to predict that. It's just about watching it game by game and seeing it evolve. And that's why I've criticised him before from a long-sighted view, is because that's what I've seen of him. Why I won't criticise him and go too hard now is because now I have to make my mind up properly over.
Do you think, like, I'll ask Raz as well, do you think because now we've hired him because of what he did for Spurs, finished 17th, he won a cup, do you think those Forest fans are just prejudge him because, like I said, he could lose the first 3 games and we're going to absolutely hammer him, and we could win 3 games, win the cup against Betis, and we're all loving him. Do you think it's just, again, we're just thinking too ahead, or it's just a football thing?
Absolutely, but that's football, isn't it? That's just football, full stop. Absolute short-termism at its extreme extent. Everybody gets a bit too hyped. You've got. For me personally, I try and look into it and look what's working, look where we can improve, look what we can do better. And that's how people within football see it. They can see a process being built and a system and things, and that's why I talk about consistency, because sometimes you do lose your first 3 games and turn it around. How many managers have gone in and struggled to get off the ground, and then all of a sudden they're looking back almost laughing at all the fans that wanted them out and all the talk of them being rubbish. But then you see it the other way. Ange was a classic example at Spurs, took them to the top of the league, being talked about as the next Pep, in the same bracket as Pep. And that makes me sniggle, because that's how far he let his own ego go as well. He was talking himself into the same bracket as Pep at that point. I remember some sort of banter.
Chris Paz away.
I can't remember, but there was some sort of banter going on where he was saying Pep's doing an Ange Postecoglou or something.
Yeah, Chris Paz away.
Not Ange is doing a Pep thing. But again, that is the winning side of him. That is the thing we want to see channeled in a positive way. But again, the downside to that is not great. I just think, look, as any season starts, you've just got to take it game by game. I think we'll know after 10 games whether this is going to work or not. And I think possibly Marinakis knows with the contract length. I think he probably knows that it's kind of, he's edged his bets a little bit on that one, because the reality is, if he's not working, I've no doubt, just because he's of Greek heritage and he's got similar personality, he'll still get the sack. If it's not working, he'll still get moved on, because the Marinakis wants to win at any cost, and it's as simple as that, and he'll tell you that. So I just think all of us as fans, it's hard to be patient. When you watch the West Ham game, after getting 4 points from the first 2, and you're fuming because it all went wrong.
Yeah, it does. It's just like we've got 4 points the first 3 games. I know that we've always not said that it did. It's just weird. Go on, Raz. Does everyone turn?
What's this? Sorry.
But like I said, it's weird. Like we're talking about. He's gone. We've got Ange. Got 4 points for the first 3 games. Yeah, he did what he did.
Yeah.
On that, but it's weird, isn't it?
It is quite strange, because normally it's when you've had like what happened with previous Forest managers. You just had a bubble of form, and it's you can't really reverse it. And in a way, we have done. If you go back to the end of last season and then you take pre-season into account, we haven't been in very good form. But I think with what's happened in the transfer window and then that Brentford game, we all thought, well, we can put that to one side now. And it was, no one thought after that Brentford game that I think we'd be sitting here now over the international break talking about a new manager. Like, I know obviously before that game, that's when the first rumblings came out around it, but I don't think any of us thought he was going to go after that Brentford game. Even if that was a bit weird for him to talk like that. That Brentford game was so good, and then the players that were coming in, you just thought, I didn't really think any of it anyway. I thought we could surely sort something out. So strange, we got 4 points in the first 3 games, and here we are with a new manager.
It's weird because it's like when Nuno did that, people are shouting so loud, Nuno out. He's Steve for Portuguese and all that nonsense. But now he's out. Let me flip it. People in the chat as well, get involved with this one. And people, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you know. Make sure everyone subscribes to Rads as well. It's in the link. Make sure everyone follows Des on X and Instagram as well, because he does it, like I said, his after game reaction videos as well. People in the chat, what's your favourite moment for Nuno? Your favourite moment for Nuno could be 1 or 2 games, 3 games. Let me start with you, Rads. Your best moment of Nuno.
There's a lot to choose from just from last season.
It's weird. That's the problem, because he's done so well for us, and there's so much good things he did for the club.
Oh yeah, he got us dreaming of Champions League and in 3rd place for quite a long time, really. Quite a large chunk of last season. And I think that's the fact we didn't hold on to that's probably a part of why this has ended up happening. I don't think Marinakis would have forgotten about that, because it was gutting ultimately to not hold on to it. But as for favourite moments, I mean, you go back to the very start, obviously beating Newcastle and beating Man United. That was
amazing,
brilliant. It was brilliant at the time, in dreamland, and then it was obviously a bit of a regression. But then last season, it was just incredible the whole time. Really, we had bad games, of course, but it just felt like from the very start we just had this really good momentum and positive energy, and we just turned it into something so special. But I mean, the Liverpool game's got to stand out, hasn't it? At Anfield, beating Brighton 7-0 was just surreal. That winning run we had over Christmas, winning 7 in a row, any of those games.
That was amazing. That was
just ridiculous. Beating Man City as well towards
weird, man.
the tail end of the season. So many moments. I can't. If I had to really pinpoint one, it's
pick one, lads. What's pinpoint?
If it's a moment, I mean, it's probably Liverpool away, but I can never get over that run of form we had over the halfway stage, because it was just so surreal. And there's just a very brief period, wasn't there? We were all saying, could we actually challenge Liverpool here? Just for a very brief moment.
Was that when we draw 1-1? And before that game, we were just talking about, can we put it the Premier League?
Before that game, it was if we win this, we could do this, And it was just it's just a real conversation. It was just brief, but it was Nuno allowed us to dream, even if it was deluded. So
good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it's sad. But there's so many moments I've not even mentioned that I think you could probably
so many. Des, what's yours, Des? I know there's quite a lot for you, Des. What's yours?
I think Liverpool's always going to be up there because I've supported Forest for a long time, and lots have happened over the last 30, 35 years whilst I've been doing so. So that's always going to be a standout. But my favourite last season, I've said it on here in relation to other things, was Brighton in the FA Cup.
Yes, as it was.
That was such a day. That was such an occasion, and that end being packed, and it was another late one, not too late, but it was a late one.
We was in the concourse as well, didn't we?
Yeah, and that was just, for me, that was just, and the fact we were going to Wembley, just jumping up and down singing, we've actually semi-achieved something. We ultimately achieved nothing, but you play for the big days, you play to win, you play for the big days. Keep repeating that fact. And I just want to sort of pick up on a stat that I get why the Aussies are all over Ange. I've been speaking to Steve today on messaging, and they're loving it, and I get it, because I'd love my best mate to be Forest manager, even though he probably won't be qualified to do it. But there was a stat there that Nuno's won 4 of the last 20 or something. Just looked at my phone whilst we was on Premier League. Ange's won 2 of 15 Premier League games. That was as far back as it went, and that was Ipswich. That was Ipswich and Southampton.
Wow!
So it's last 15 Premier League games. And again, look, I don't want to. That is a negative, obviously, but I just sort of it. Everything's not always what it seems. That's the point I'm trying to make with stats. It's not always the way it is. Sometimes you just got to wipe the slate clean, and that's what I think I'm doing. I'm talking myself into it, wiping the slate clean. And then just sort of thinking, all right, let's go with him. We've got no choice in these things. That's why I won't bother who got it, because we've got no choice in it anyway. But going back to your point and your question, just so many memories to take from that. Like Rad says, that period of winning football games and thinking we were never going to get beat again.
That's why it's crackers, Des. That's why it's crackers.
1-0 up against Liverpool, putting herself in a title race for about 50 minutes. That sort of thing was crazy, and ultimately it didn't materialise. But I don't think that was all on Nuno. West Ham, I said it myself, I felt it was all on Nuno. But I don't think the end of last season was all on him. I think there was a few shortcomings in January, and the fact that, as Ange used the excuse himself, injuries and missing players, took its toll. So again, I'll cut Ange some slack on that one, and hopefully when he's got a full squad, he can rotate it and use it in a way that shows as a plan B and shows he can win football matches.
I'll say mine. You know what? You're spot on. Was it Rad said it? I think the 7 on the trot was amazing. Liverpool away, that was just next level. That was next level. If like me and Des, and if you was there in the chat as well, I've never danced like is it Hannah Montana? I was like a little kid jumping around, running around Anfield. I never celebrated in my life like that.
Within that door, do you know the 2 games that stick out for me in that run? And of course, there was deep into the run, so we was getting confident. But the Wolves and Everton game, I never ever felt we weren't going to win those football matches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're all a bit negative when we leave the house, thinking, "Oh God, we'll get beat today."
Yeah.
Nature of following the team. But Everton away and Wolves away, I just never ever thought we weren't coming back with a point. And what a contrast that was to a team that couldn't get a point away under Cooper.
You know what? And what you just said, like people, like I said, we had a great season last season, and 7 wins on the trot, beating Liverpool, beating Spurs. Who else did we beat? It was a big team. I thought, we lost now, and we got to put some respect on Nuno for what he did for the club. Like I said, we're going Europe. How can we slag the guy off? And now, yes, he did his little episode press conference, and I think he thought it was a bit. He should have done it, but we got to put some respect on Nuno for what he's did. We love Steve Cooper. We got to listen. Shout out to Cooper. He's joined Bromby today as well, so I hope he does well there. But yeah, we'll put respect on Nuno, because like when Nuno came, everyone was like, nah, he's not going to be like Steve Cooper. But he did better than Steve Cooper if you keep it like that. But listen, Nuno, we got him respect. It didn't end well with him, but we've got to focus on Ange. And the last thing I want to say, lads, and people in the chat as well, let's start with you, Des. What's your expectations now with Ange? Where do you think he'll finish? And what cup do you think he should go for? People in the chat as well, get involved.
I I don't know. I won't sit on the fence entirely. I said to you already. I think we just have to sort of wait up and enjoy whatever ride we're going to go on. You know, enjoy the bravado and the bluster we're going to get in press conferences. I don't think we're going to do any worse. I really don't. As much as I'm not all for this move, I don't think we're going to do any worse than what we've already got. When I look at that team. You know, and what really frustrated me against West Ham was, and I got battered over it because people will always say stuff. You know, West Ham were pathetic. West Ham were terrible, and all we had to do was be clinical. You know, and create some chances, step on it slightly. A game like that, Ange will win every day of the week. You know, Ange will win that game every single day of the week because he'll just get you running at them. He'll get you taking shots. You know, doing all these things, and that's where we were lacking in that game. So I think there's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. We're going to get picked off at times as well. You know, so I can't see us doing too bad because I think we're a better team. I think there were better players sat on the bench than that was on the pitch against West Ham. I think the team's evolving all the time into a better shape, you know, rather than stick someone in here or stick someone in there. We now got that quality sitting in reserve and all those kind of things, you know. So I think he's got a good squad to work with. That's the point I'm getting to. I think the League Cup, you know, you beat Swansea, you get a good draw. All of a sudden, you're in the 5th round. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. You get another home draw, you know, you might be in the semi-finals, and then you're looking. Then everyone's talking about winning trophies.
Wow, I thought about that. We're in the 4th round, aren't we? Yeah, bloody hell.
We're in the 3rd round now, but you get another good draw. You know, you're in the 5th round. You get a home tie against anyone you fancy your chances. You're in a semi, and then everyone's talking like the whole hype around Ange and cup competitions is starting to build again, isn't it? So. Yeah. Do you know what? I really wouldn't put it past Forest to win the trophy this year because I think they've got
to. I think he's got to, Des, to be fair.
You look now, right, and we spoke about it enough, but you've got Morgan Gibbs-White on the verge of the England squad. You've got Anderson, who's just cemented his place at the World Cup, you know, and you've got Douglas Luiz. Right? You tell me, and I was saying this about Murillo and Milenkovic last year. Genuinely, apart from Arsenal and Liverpool, maybe you wouldn't have swapped them for anyone. I don't even think I'd have swapped them for what they got because I like our players. But you start looking at the midfield and going, all of a sudden, that's better than Villa's. That's better than Spurs' midfield. You know, that's better than these teams that are going to Brighton, you know, Bournemouth, all these teams. All of a sudden, and then you got Hudson-Odoi, and you've potentially got and Dore or Hutchinson on the wing, you know, capping that as a 5 or whatever, whichever way you look at it. And you start thinking, I won't really swap those 3 for anyone. You know, the 3 in the middle especially. And like Luiz, he left Villa not because Villa wanted to sell him or because he was on the down. He was on the up. You know, and he left, and now it didn't quite work, and he's come back to us. So that's kind of like move them down a bit and it's up a bit. So you look at the goalkeeper, I won't swap him. I think he's in the top 5 goalkeepers in the Premier League because there's lots of poor goalkeepers. You know, you've got 2 centre-backs who you won't swap for the world. Perhaps we might see some frailties in this system, but then you've got 3 midfielders. Again, which ones are you swapping out of that? Who are you taking out there? Because
that's a good problem, though. That's a really
exactly. So you've got 6 players there, the core of your team. Yeah, perhaps at times we need a few more goals up front. You know, we need a few more goals from the wings and things like that. There is players out there who could improve it. But again, you start thinking, where do we fall in, if you see what I mean? In my mind, we fall in around 6th or 7th in the Premier League, regardless of who the manager is.
What about you, Rad? What are you feeling? Are you feeling the expectations and needs to win, or stay there? I think we all want. Like, the Premier League is still going to be tough. We still need to stay away, clear from bottom 3. But what's yours? What's yours, Rods?
Yeah, I think it really could be so many possibilities. I think people saying we're going to go down, I think that's just being quite dramatic. I know he nearly got Spurs relegated, but it's two different situations, I guess. And as we were saying there, I think ultimately we were definitely better than Spurs last season, and I think even this season we probably are squad-wise. I'd take our squad over their squad for sure. So I don't think it's necessarily realistic to see us just fall back down to 15th, 16th. I think ultimately we did overachieve last season to be as high as what we were for as long as what we were. So I think maybe we might regress to maybe mid-table, which I don't think would be a bad thing if we do well in the
Not a bad
cups.
thing at all. It's not a bad thing.
No, I mean we would have absolutely took it a couple of years ago. But maybe we might regress to where we ended up finishing. We just stay around there more. And last season, if we had been 6th, 7th, 8th most of the season, we wouldn't have had anything negative at all. It's just the fact we ended up falling down there. But if we end up staying around there, I mean, I don't think that can at all be. There's no negativity in that at all. But if we, I really don't know. I think if we do go out and try and win a trophy, which we will, go for that. I do think we will put a lot of focus on trying to win one of the domestic cups, and Ange just won the Europa League, which is what we're now going to be in. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus on Europe. I think Marinakis is going to want us to do, as well as possible, and I'm sure Ange is going to want to have a good crack at it again, try and go back to back.
That'd be nice, man. That'd be nice.
It would just,
it'd be Istanbul, isn't it? In Istanbul's final, yeah.
Istanbul, yeah. I mean, it's crazy with even talking about this, but I think with the squad we've got and with the manager,
we've got a good squad. The good 22 players that we've got. I know we haven't got the.
We've got the most expensive squad in the Europa League.
That's amazing. Exactly. That is sickening to say. What the hell are we doing like this? We should be talking about this. Most expensive. That is absolutely mental.
My only concern at all is, like I've been saying all stream, is the way we might play football. I think we may actually be better at scoring goals because of how Ange plays.
Who was it? Kevin Keegan. We scored more goals than them. That's what we're doing.
I think we may actually score more than we did in the Nuno, but defensively we probably will be more shaky, at least at first. But again, it's two different teams and situations. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen again, but I think there's definitely going to be some tough moments, especially as we're learning with Ange, and if based off Spurs, it's going to happen. But Ange at Spurs, he had a lot of big results as well. He went to the Etihad and won 4-0 last season. I know they weren't in a good place, but that's not easy for anyone to do. So he's a good manager, but it's something that we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. I think it's going to be a roller coaster for sure.
It's that thing, isn't it, lads, where how many league defeats can we bear if the cups are going well? It's not history is not necessarily going to repeat itself, but I'm going to upset the young ones now. Whenever they ask Cloughie what he wanted to win, he says, "I want to win the league." That's your bread and butter. But the reality is, Cloughie wanted to win everything. Cloughie wanted to win and everything. Like me, he wanted to win the reserve league at the time. 6-a-side tournaments in Australia and things like that. He wanted to win all the cups they went in, and that's why he was so angry about Anderlecht and all those things. I think that the emphasis has changed a little bit now. And again, especially with the sort of foreign impact, is get a trophy on the board. Get a trophy on the board. Get the winning mentality. They believe that the winning mentality is if you've got a trophy, you've won something. Whereas our sort of pragmatic approach has always been, let's go through a season, let's progress, let's do this. Nobody's going to turn down big days. But what we just love is a solid league finish and a trophy in the cabinet. And I think that would be, we'd all look back and go, thanks, Ange. Probably
Exactly.
good move in the end. Like we're saying with Nuno over Cooper, probably for the best in the end. And we was his staunchest fans, Cooper's. So hopefully we can just have that solid league finish. And like I said, if we fall below 10th, I think he's failing big time because of the squad and because of the money spent. And I think the owner will. People will ever go at me saying I'm being negative on Ange. It's not me who's going to sack him. It's not me who's going to get on his back. The owner will be the first on his back, and people forget that. Fans forget that. When Marinakis is kicking off at something, it's because he's angry, because he's upset. And we've seen it after the Leicester game. We've seen it after the Liverpool game last year, Everton, and all those things. It's because he don't take anything less. So it doesn't matter what we think. We've been used to losing for too long now. It matters what the big man thinks, and it'll be the same with this manager as it was with the last one and the one before that and the one before that. If they don't do the business, he won't be there. But I think a cup will definitely sort of aid him, especially with a solid league position.
100%. Before we do go, I want to have a little cheat at Expressions, the Spurs fan. I don't know if no one's seen me on my Instagram video. I've shared a video and he's going for Expressions. So when we play you Spurs, Expressions, I'm coming for you. Actually, I'm going to cook you to hell. So Expressions, I hope you're watching this. Right, Des, Rad, it's a new era, new manager. Hopefully, we'll have more highs and lows this season. We're looking forward to the European tour, Des. We start with Wales next. Is it next week? We're going Wales next week to Swansea away. That's like a pre-Wembley trip, innit? Pre-European tour.
Four in 10 days.
That is mad, isn't it? You know what? Wait, what?
4 away days.
Arsenal, Swansea, Burnley, Right, that's mad. I didn't even know that. 4 away, dog. I
finish work on the day of Swansea and go back 2 weeks later.
4 away days, people. If that's dedication for myself and Des.
I think I might have to set up that YouTube channel you keep talking about.
I have been telling him and that, but I think Des might
make some extra income.
Des might need to do OnlyFans. Des only feet, so only Des. So people, if you want to see Des do only Des, please sign up to his new one. K might set up for him for some side money and that. So, but no, I'm joking aside, people. Make sure, like I said, me and Des will be doing loads of content as well as Rads, before and after reactions, as well vlogs. The vlogs are most important than what me and Rads do. So, people, make sure everyone's please go and subscribe to Rads. Like he's worked hard, like myself. The link is in the title. Any videos, Rads that you've done? People Rads to the video. I need to see it afterwards. So
yeah, I've done my own video about this. I'm think I'm going to do a video about Ange as well. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Where's Des gone? Des is gone on my day. I think he's lost it. Des has lost it, people. I've got a video, people, Thursday, 9 o'clock with Highbury squad with Sophie. Here he is. He's back on again. Yeah, so here he is. I've got a video with Sophie and Albert from Highbury squad. That'll be at 9 o'clock. I've not told Des, but Des, you've been wanted Friday 8 o'clock at Highbury squad. The ones too. So I'm telling you now, be free. So me and Des will be on the Highbury squad 8 o'clock Friday. So we're talking about, because me and Des have a great relationship with Kevin Campbell. So there's going to be some good stories that me and Des can talk about. So yeah, Highbury squad Friday. They're on my channel Thursday as well. Like I said, it's going to be a good era for Ange. So it is what it is, people. It is what it is. Right. If you are rewatching this, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you know. And like I said, make sure you go and follow Des on X and on Instagram. Far from far, we are traveled. Make sure everyone follows Des Rads as well on X, on YouTube channel. Who shall follow? Is there Leicester fans on this? Control them. Who is it? Yeti. People go and follow. I'm going to forward it to Yeti. He's another Forest fan as well. But yeah, Des, we've got a busy 4-way days. So was that Stanley? Get Stanley back. Get Stanley on the chat, man. Get Stanley. Is that Stanley? That's it. Stanley, the legend himself. Yes, he's a legend. So right, I'll see you Thursday 9 o'clock with Sophie and the Hyper Squad. It's new era, people. Hopefully, Forest can start with a bang against Arsenal on Saturday. Peace and love.
It is what it is, mate.